Students are heading back to school tomorrow, and state testing is a hot topic as always. Texas uses the STAAR test to assess students throughout their schooling career, but some say standardized tests don't accurately measure a child's knowledge. There's also complaints that there are too many tests. There will be some changes this year, including breaking the test up into smaller tests throughout the year and allowing districts to write their own assessments. Last year, there were a number of problems with the test, including lost tests that caused some test scores to be nullified. So the STAAR test is our topic this half hour. We want to hear from you on our Fox 26 Facebook page. You can also weigh in on Twitter. Just use the hashtag Fox26 for life. Joining us live in the newsroom is our panel led by our senior legal analyst, Chris Tritico. We also have Democratic media consultant Mustafa Tamiz and Republican strategist and public policy analyst Jackie Bally. Good morning.
Good morning.
So there's lawsuits pending over this. There's all kinds of things going on. What do you say to parents and students?
Comes up every year. There's a big movement in Texas, the opt-out movement for parents to opt their children out of the STAAR test. I get in trouble every year over this because of my position on it. Now, I represent the Houston Federation of Teachers, the largest teachers union in Texas, who took a position last year opposed to the STAAR test, as am I. However, the opt-out movement in Texas, there is a provision in Texas law that says a parent can take their child out of class temporarily for religious or moral beliefs, but the law says, this is section 26.010 of the Texas Education Code, you cannot do that to avoid a test. So if you take your child out to skip the STAAR test and it's one of those grades that you're required to pass, I think you have a problem. Other than that, I think you can take your child out if you don't want them to take the STAAR test. But with that said, with all the problems in the STAAR test and the empirical data, Mustafa Tamiz, that shows that these tests are actually harming children, it's time for the legislature to say, let's take a look at this and find a better way to educate our children.
I agree. The challenge is that we see everything through partisan lens. We see it as Republican or Democrat, conservative or progressive, for choice, anti-voucher, and so we're not able to solve the complicated issues that something like education requires us to. So we're not solution-oriented. We're just trying to win our individual sound bites, and that's the difficulty of this. So in order to fix this, I think we have to have a much broader conversation on how to reform testing.
Around the time the earth cooled when I was in elementary school and we started taking standardized tests, it wasn't for anything other than to determine where we stood as students.
Right.
And now, when George Bush was the governor, it became, let's determine how teachers are doing based on this test, which radically changed education, because schools and teachers teach the children how to pass the test. They don't teach them the education.
These types of tests have gone through several different evolutions since then, and it makes you wonder which profession is harder, being a cop or a teacher, because you have so much public scrutiny and with limited resources, and the problem is each district has the opportunity to interpret it different ways, and that's what we're seeing particularly with the STAAR testing, is that each district is interpreting it differently, and they're applying it differently, and that's why you're seeing more parents in one district being argumentative because they feel that their students are being damaged or hampered with, or their grades are being hampered with, and you're not seeing that with other districts as much. So for instance, in Fort Bend ISD, we don't have as many complaints as you would maybe in Katy ISD. So I think it's been clear that with the STAAR testing there have been many issues, and I guarantee you they will be discussing this in the next session.
We'll hope so. Let's go to Sally. She's monitoring our social media.
All right, there are plenty of Twitter pages, Facebook pages filled with unhappy parents. Let's go ahead and show you some of the tweets out there. The Stop STAAR 2016 Twitter account is talking about one of Andrea Watkins' stories this week regarding the STAAR test, and they say, this is why we're pressing forward with our lawsuit. The Commissioner of Education's June announcement was not enough, and her report this week talked about how some of these nullified test results are still being used to push students into remedial classes. And then the TEA says most students taking the STAAR under the course exams pass on the first try. They put that info out this week. And then the Texas Tribune published an article saying that amid the STAAR test backlash, the number of Texas school districts considered failing has increased slightly. So there have been mixed reviews as far as these test scores go with the STAAR test.
But that doesn't answer the critical question, though, Mustafa, is does the test harm the children, or are we teaching children because we're only teaching them how to do the test? But I want to talk about Andrea's story. Andrea's story, they nullified the STAAR test for certain grades, and then in Katy ISD we find that they're still punishing children who didn't pass the test that was nullified.
Yeah, and so what happens is that, let me take the first part of what you said. When we're teaching for the test, children aren't learning things that they need to in order to understand the larger issues that they're going to go through their education on. And in terms of Katy, then some kids are being left behind or put in remedial classes based just on the test score, not on their overall grade. And that's becoming a challenge, because then you're trying to understand, well, how do we measure success? Is it what they do in the classroom, or is it on this particular test?
Yeah, 1 minute.
Well, that goes back to what I was saying before, and how districts and certain administrators will interpret it differently. The purpose of the STAAR test was to be another refresher of your general courses, but what we're seeing is sometimes the test is above what the standard of teaching for certain courses are. So as a result, there are some teachers who are just feeding the answers directly to the students, because guess what? If your lifestyle is tied to that score, you're going to do that. This needs to be evaluated. We've been talking about it for years. I guarantee you in the next session it will be.
Well, I hope so. We'll see, because we haven't seen that, even though we've seen argument and argument and argument. They've only made it more rigorous, is what the legislature's been doing.
Well, like I said, they will evaluate it. I didn't say that you're going to like the standards. I'm sure people are going to have some complaints, but they are going to reevaluate it.
Right.
Guess what? When it comes to education, it's very difficult to make an entire state happy.
That's true. We'll see where it goes. We'll be back in 15 minutes with another really good topic.
Good point. All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.